is not enough. What do you do? What are we here for? What do you truly want when change is not enough? What do you do? Let's talk about it, the problems we face. Let's fight hatred, no time to waste. The mind is naked, we can see it without an X-ray. Life is easy if we work together. We're the keepers, we're the people, we're all equal, filled with purpose. The past has pain, it'll drive you, even make you take aim. But together is where we should aim. Together is where we should. What are we here for? What do you truly want when change is not enough? What do you do?
Listen to the Be Forever Cool podcast. My name is Rex 45, and I'm fortunate tonight to have Davin from Apex Advisor on the show. Welcome to the show, man. How you doing tonight?
Doing all right. How are you?
Man, I can't complain. But I could, but just staying busy, trying to, stay creative and, just keep chasing that creativity. Some days you get it, some days you miss it, but, chasing that. So welcome to the show, man. And let's just jump into it, man. Normally, we're talking about two wheels on the show, but I've been checking your stuff out online, and I'm a car guy at heart as well. At a very, I think, middle school, I wanted to race cars. So that was my first love, and it still is. I mean, I still love cars. I love motorcycles, but cars is like second nature for me, which is pretty good. So let's talk about how you got into cars, and just talk about how you got into cars. Did you start just making them go fast? Started doing stuff, or how did you get into it?
Well, I think everybody was interested into cars as a kid. And so I think everyone has that story of like they played with cars as a kid. They were the one who could identify cars as they went by, yada, yada. Right.
Right.
But when I was 16, 17, I was able to get my own first car. I had saved some money, and my parents had saved some money. And so we had gone on a car together. It was a Hyundai Tiburon Coupe.
Okay.
And I hit a lot of stuff. Like just was terrible, right? Just like curbs and other things. And I would go to like car meets with my friends because I was excited I had a car. So I would go to these Hyundai meets and whatever. And I was frustrated that I was like, man, I really suck at this. Like, this is really terrible. I wish I could do it better. And so as a birthday gift, they one of the members of the club got me a free entry to an autocross, which I didn't know existed. And for like those who aren't familiar, so autocross is a club style event where you're basically going through obstacle course with cones. It's a timed event, solo car, drive by yourself, and you basically weave through cones for car control, and you get time penalties if you hit cones. Yeah. And I was lousy at that too. I got lost. I had no idea where I was going. Like, I was the guy who put a cone on my car and said, hey, I'm new. I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to get better at it. But I didn't care. I was having fun. So I started going to events like every weekend. So I was like, I know that I might be terrible, but everyone here must have started out terrible at some point. So I'm just going to keep going and eventually figure it out. Like if I could just do like 1/4 of the course good this one time, that'd be good. And then I'll just be bad for the rest of it. And then later I'd get good at half of it. And then I'd be good at the whole thing. Right. And the course changes all the time. So you start to kind of notice patterns of like how the courses were constructed and how people would go through them. I've never been scared to ask questions. So when people are good at something, I will follow them around and just be like, tell me how you did that. Right. And I would sit in people's cars and co-drive with them and be like, would you take me on one run and let me see how you're driving so I could just see how it's supposed to be done? And I would start asking questions like, how did you know to do that? Like, how did you get the car to do that? Like when I got in the car, it wouldn't do that. How to, yada, yada, yada. Right. And eventually I started learning from people who were teaching me. So the way I've always improved my skill is I teach people what I know. And then when they ask me a question that I don't know, it's a new topic for me to go find out, so I can find out the answer for them.
Right.
And so I started as an autocross coach. So.
Yeah. Nice. I was going to say, I mean, I think not similar background in the sense of, but I got my license at 16 as well, 16 and a half. I had a Honda Accord and, 2 months later, ran into a pole racing on the streets and, fixed it, started racing again. I mean, I like I would tell people, if you look like you wanted to race, I was racing you. If you're an old lady and you were trying to get it going, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And I switched to a Volkswagen GTI 16 valve. It's one of those cars. At the time, I didn't know how. I didn't know anything about Volkswagen really, other than one of them beat me when I was in my Honda, so I wanted one.
Right, so I want that now. Yeah,
and that car, connected me with so many people. One person who was a long life friend, but was a mechanic, and he got me into autocross as well. And so doing that and having fun doing that. For you, getting being 16, 18, give or take. The age and getting into it, was that something that you knew about that was happening? Was it normal? Where did you grow up? And was that something normal, or you were just fortunate that somebody knew about it and connected you?
No, I was just fortunate. So I used to live in Seattle, up in Washington State. And I don't come from a car background, like a car family at all. My parents see cars as appliances, right? And so I always joke that to them, cars are like cell phones for me. Right, like you can tell me a bunch of features about a cell phone, and I'm like, does it make phone calls? Kind of connect to the internet? I could give it, right? Well, my parents were the same way about cars, so I just was naturally curious, and so I would go to these clubs and just ask a bunch of questions. I was like, how are you guys getting better at this car thing? Like, at least how are you keeping your cars not being damaged and hitting stuff? Like, there's got to be some place we can go. And I didn't mind looking stupid because I wasn't very good, so of course I was going to look stupid. Like, that's fine. If you go enough times, you're not the worst after a while. So you just keep going, and eventually you're better than somebody, right? And so I would go, and I would just be like, okay, my goal is to not be last, right? So I would just go to not be last, and I would drive around, and I'm a big nerd, so I would take a notebook and I'd write down something that I learned or something that confused me, and I'd pretty much just work on that until the next autocross. Right. And eventually,
and so for you, was it like? I mean, were you modifying your cars as well along the way?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I mean, to the rage of family all throughout, I modified my car regardless if they wanted me to or not. Right. It was a thing that I really enjoyed doing, and my car would leave stock and then come back with an exhaust, and then my car would leave stock and then come back lowered, and my car would leave stock and come back with wheels. I worked as a dishwasher at a restaurant near my house, so I could make money to work on my car. And my parents and I always had this joke that like, well, you can do what you want with your own money. So I went and earned my own money and put it into my car because it was my money. So there you go. Right. And in my mind, I thought of racing as more of like insurance to keep my car safe. Okay. Because the way I thought about it was like, everyone's got a car, but no one talks about driving and no one knows how to drive. And these things go fast and they can be really dangerous. And so like, wouldn't you want me to go get training on how to like keep my car safe and keep me safe and like, be safe in like extreme situations? Like if I'm sliding on ice or whatever, like, how do I know the conditions are bad if no one teaches me how to look at conditions? Like things like,
And you touch a good point on safety and how about, and like I'm from Jamaica originally, and there the driving test is crazy. A lot of other countries, the driving testing is very, it's crazy. There's a lot of information, a lot they expect you to learn how to do, and so you can be a better driver. And I grew up in Boston, so I can only speak from my experience there. But like getting your license is just making it around the block.
Right, America is lax, dude. Very lax. It's like, can you read the signs? Can you stop at lights? Can you read, like, can you get through intersections, and can you make it around the block? Like, they barely took you anywhere. Right. So we had in Washington, you had this minimum requirement to get your license from your learner's permit at 16, where you need to have like 50 hours of driving with somebody. Right. And so my grandmother, I used to have her car as my first car, and it was a Tiburon too. Ironically, we liked Hyundais for some reason, and so I drove my grandmother to like running errands and like back and forth to school to pick up my hours for my license. And I got like the minimum requirement was 50, and I got like 300. because like I really wanted to be prepared. And when I went in there and I gave them this notebook of all the hours I logged, like the lady like rolled her eyes and just like put the notebook on the side of the counter and it's like, whatever, you really didn't need all that. And then just kind of moved me on. And I'm like, what do you mean? I thought I was supposed to be prepared for this thing. It's not that a big deal. And then when I did my license test, it was like, oh, can you drive around the block? Can you parallel park? And they had me park behind a bunch of cars that I could have parked between. It wasn't they didn't even test me. They were just like, can you not hit things for 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, no.
I was pretty bad. I had driving school, but I had a car before I had my license. I used to drive my car to the school.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. Well, my grandmother, when I had my permit, that's how I would just, I would drive to school and then we would switch and she would drive home.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's how I learned stuff. Like, she would do basic things when I was little is, she would have me back the car out of the garage and like drive to the end of the block.
Right.
And then, she would walk down, like maybe down 2 blocks and I'd have to go get her. And then she'd have me drop down like around the street and I go like just little bit at a time. And then eventually she'd be like, okay, now you're going to drive to school. So I would drive to school. Like, and it was much better than how my parents would do it, where they would just yell at me all the time. So I was not very receptive to that.
Yeah. No, I was fortunate that my dad didn't teach me. Well, my friends taught me how to drive. So I was even worse because we were just hooligans. But we both love speed. And for me, after my first accident, I realized like I don't really know how to drive that good.
Yeah, that was me too. After my first big accident, I was like, I messed that up. Like I don't even know what I did. Like, so the joke I always tell is when I was in high school, I was driving home from school dance with a friend. Yeah. And of course, we were driving too fast, and I was driving around this off ramp, and I lifted around the off ramp. And so there is a car technique called lift off oversteer, where you lift off the gas and the rear goes light and the car goes around. And so we're going too fast and the car whips around and I have no idea what's happening. I just figured I would just do the opposite of whatever I did.
Yep.
To cause the problem. So I just jump back on the gas again. And like, ironically, in a front wheel drive car, that's what you're supposed to do. But I had no idea that was what would fix it. I just was like, well, what I did was bad. It will either fix it or make it worse. Okay, back on gas, right? And so I, save the car and we drive away. And my friend's like, oh my God, like, how'd you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. And that question bugged the crap out of me for like the rest of the night. Yeah. Right? Because I was like, I don't know what happened. And I don't know how to prevent that from happening again. Like I was just minding my own business and all of a sudden my car started sliding. Like, what if it happens again? Like, right. So then I started looking up books and asking questions and kind of digging into that stuff because I wanted to just make sure that like my car wasn't broken. I didn't know. Right.
Some people just think they're just a natural driver and just like, I can do this again.
I was like, I couldn't do it again if you asked me because I have no idea what I did. Like, oh my God. Right. Yeah. And that's how I started getting into learning more about driving and like, more about coaching and other things like that. The other thing that kind of got to me was that people would constantly give me what I call rhetoric, and I don't like rhetoric. So they would be like, you either have it or you don't. You just need to know. And I was like, I don't understand how you can tell me about like sports like basketball or golf or other things that you've done. And you can give me really good detail about that. But I ask you about how to drive a car and you just give me some bullshit response, right? Like to me, that wasn't helpful. That just told me that you didn't know, not that it's not possible to do.
Right.
And so I was like, I need to find who knows. Right.
Is it also possible that, some of these folks could just can't explain how they do it? Because for me, a lot of the stuff I learned was just not intuitive. It was just my curiosity and like baby steps, but I couldn't explain how I did it. But I just, it's like, I can just feel what the car is feeling. Right? Yeah,
that's a lot of what it was. Like, as I started coaching more people and kind of got deeper into coaching and worked with a lot of folks, you started to realize like they weren't doing it out of malice. It was just a lack of knowledge of being able to communicate what was happening. Right. They would help you if they could, but they couldn't. And that's okay. Like that was fine, but that wasn't a good answer. Right. And so I was like, okay, there's got to be a pattern to this thing. It's just a vehicle. Like there's some controls and you make the controls do a thing and the vehicle responds to the controls. I just need to figure out what happens when I use the controls in a certain way to make the vehicle do a thing. Okay. All right. And so I started with autocross and then would start to like every time I would spin the car, every time I would make a mistake, I would just ask somebody what I did. And I'd have other, coaches ride with me and be like, why did that happen? Like, why did I spin out there? And they would start to teach me about, weight transfer and all the basics that you start to learn. And then as I started learning, I would teach my friends who were like in the novice category to get them up to speed of what I knew. And so as, over the years, as I coach, what I always tell people is, my goal is to make you faster than me by teaching you everything that I know. And, I'm not threatened by you being quicker than me, because if you end up being quicker than me, then I know there's more I need to learn in that area.
Right.
And I'll focus my attention there, like steel sharpens steel.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
So I was always motivated to be like, everyone come, let me teach you what I know. Let me help you. And that also then would reinforce concepts for me, because you talk to a lot of people about the same things, and they would ask a lot of questions. And sometimes you get the same question repeatedly.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, either A, I'm not explaining that very well, or B, I don't understand it.
Right.
Let me start to figure out how to make it clearer. Make it simpler.
Right. So let's back up a little bit. So do you drive standard? Or
All my cars are manual. It was one of those ones where, like, I started actually on an automatic car, and one day I was like, "That's stupid." I have read so much about how manual works. I just know. So one day I just bought a Miata and had to drive it home. Okay. I had a friend of mine just come get me, and we just drove and got the car. And I said, "Well, I got to get it home," and figured it out on the way home. Right. Gotcha. And then I learned how to drive stick. And then I just went from there, because I was like, I know what all the controls do. I have, stacks of magazines since I was a kid about how cars work. So I know what everything does. I just need to sit there and figure it out for a while. So I just bought a cheap Miata and drove it until I got home.
So how long were you doing autocross before you switched to karting? Add karting. And then also, before you started teaching, let's talk about, I know a little bit about autocross. I did it, like I said, 18, 19, and this is back in the early 90s. So I'm pretty sure it's a lot different now. But also just talk about, is it competition? Is it more like doing a track day where you're just out there practicing? Sure. Or is it more like club racing? You're also racing? So about, before you got into the teaching, let's just hear a little bit more about your on-track experience.
No, for sure. So I guess we'll break this into three categories. There's the autocross time, there's the rental karting time, and then there's the competition karting time. Okay. And they were all dramatically different experiences. So when I was autocrossing, other people were competing, but I didn't have any money. Okay. So I ran largely in time only. Because I would show up with like all season tires and with a very vague car that didn't fit into a class. But I modified the way I wanted to, because I just wanted to do what I want. Right. So you couldn't put me in, like, I think I was in D street prepared, which made no sense. Right. So I'm going up against like WRXs and other things. Like, there's just no way. Right. Even with hacks, there's just no way. Yeah. So I ran time only and just went and got reps. So I would enter both classes. Normally they have a morning split and afternoon split. And then the thing with autocross is it's a single run thing. So you get, depending on how many people enter, will depend on how many runs you get.
Gotcha.
So sometimes you get 3, sometimes you get 4, sometimes you get a lot if there's nobody there. Right. And so I would try to. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say, and and correct me if I'm wrong. It's a time thing, so you're on the track by yourself for that time. So
you're on the track by yourself for that time.
Yep.
Exactly.
You're just time essentially.
Exactly. Right. And so I would go to popular events so I could see a bunch of different cars driving, and I would go to not popular events so I could get seat time. Because when there weren't that many entrants, that means I could do a lot of runs, right? And so I did that for a while, but I found that I really wasn't motivated to be really competitive at that thing, because it's not that I had a problem with autocross. I have a lot of really good friends who are autocrossers and they have really great cars. It was just, I didn't feel the same competitive need as they did in a single time trial thing. I liked racing people. I liked competing with other people. And so I did that for a number of years. It's the only seat time I could get for a long time. And so I acted as an instructor there and kind of helped out there. But I had a buddy of mine that I autocrossed with that invited me to an indoor go-kart track. And it was just a fun walk-in kind of thing. Right. But he was like, you should come. And I was like, this is stupid. He's like, you've never done it. So how can you say that's stupid? I said, fair point. Right. So I went there and he kicked my butt. And I was so mad about it that I went 4 races a day for a month. Wow. So I did 120 races that month to practice so I could kick his butt, because I was so tired of losing to people that I was like, no, we're not doing this. Like, I went every day after work. I went on the weekends. Like, pretty much if they were open, I was there. Right. Yeah. And so I moved the switch from autocross to karting to indoor karting at first, because I could get a lot of seat time. Like one 10-minute session at a walk-in race was like half the year of autocross as far as sitting in the car. Right. Wow. And so I did a lot of driving, just with walk-ins with friends and family, just kind of driving with, public lobby stuff, for the lack of better. Right. Which was actually great, because you saw some crazy stuff. Right. And you learned.
This is in Seattle.
Seattle.
Indoor electric carts.
Well, they were gas carts, but same thing. Okay. Yeah, but same thing, right? So, they had a 6 horsepower class and a 9 horsepower class. So you did a couple of races in the 6 horsepower, and you could qualify for the 9s. I was quick enough in the 6s to do that, so I would run in the 9 horsepower carts, and you just kind of got used to dealing with traffic and a bunch of poor drivers making bad decisions, and being able to anticipate that they were going to spin or not make the apex because they'll just hit you and things like that. Right. Mm-hmm. But it helped build up a really good, solid comfort in traffic for when I moved to competition go-karts, because I ran some indoor tournaments there. I won a tournament there. It was really great. I ran some indoor clinics there. And what I tend to do as a habit, I find a motorsport I really enjoy. I race it for a while, and then I start teaching people.
Okay.
So I did it with autocross. I did it with indoor karting. I ran an indoor karting clinic for a number of years where walk-ins could come in, and I would host a class, and I would teach them how to drive around, and then they would drive and I would drive with them.
Right.
And then
And what made you want to teach? Is that just part of your DNA?
Well, it's my way of improving my skill set more quickly. Okay. Because we're going through lots of reps.
Yep.
Right. Because I'm constantly dealing with students. I'm constantly helping them learn things. I'm constantly reading the material. Right. It was an easier way for me to reinforce what I needed to do as a driver, because I had to teach somebody else.
Gotcha.
And so, by offering myself as a teacher, it not only let me give a little bit back, which was something I'm always motivated to do, but it more selfishly helped me get as many reps as I could with as many different people to really reinforce how things worked.
Okay.
And so I would run these courses. And if people were driving better after talking to me, clearly I'm onto something. Right. And so, yeah.
I mean, did you, with the autocross, was it just like, this is as much as far as I can go, and I need a new challenge, as you said, or did you it was just time to move on?
I mean, not to be rude about it, I was bored.
Okay.
I didn't have the money to compete at the top of a class.
Right.
So what was the point of going if I was just going to have under-prepared equipment? That's not fair, right? And I found, at least with indoor karting, the lead playing field is a little more fair. Sure, they were walking carts. I couldn't maintain my own equipment, but at least everybody was dealing with the same pile of crap. So at least that was kind of fair, right? And then after a number of years, I started meeting outdoor karters who would come to the indoor go-kart tracks for fun. And so, I'm never afraid to ask a question. I'd be like, well, where do you go race? And they would tell me, and I was like, I'm going to meet you there. And I would drive to the go-kart track, and I wasn't even racing that weekend. I just sat and asked questions. Gotcha, where did you buy that? How much was it? Who did you get it from? Right? Where do you store it? Let me see your trailer. Just things like that. Right.
Right.
And then I bought my own outdoor cart, and I bought a budget outdoor cart. I got a used one.
Right.
And I raced with some people until I was able to afford a new one. And so the cycle continues.
Gotcha. And out of the three, which one, what's the difference between the indoor and outdoor as far as power, suspension?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So both are still carts. Yeah, both are still carts, but outdoor carts don't have all of the impact side pods that indoor carts do, so they're much lighter. And the power, the range of classes is much, much broader.
Right.
So an indoor go-kart, you might think of something of a 5 horsepower cart, or maybe a really fast go-kart is a 9 horsepower cart. 9 horsepower is the minimum that you'll normally see with race carts, and they'll go all the way as high as 45. Right. So I raced Tag Senior, which was a 2-stroke single speed cart that was about 31, 32 horsepower. Mm-hmm. So I could do around 70 miles an hour in that go-kart. And on a road course, you could do about 80 or 90. Okay. Right? So it was a dramatically different speed. But racing is racing. The line is the line. The concepts are the concepts, right?
Oh, for sure.
Part of the reason that I taught when I was in the lower categories of things was that when I got an opportunity to drive something faster, I had something to stand on. Right. I had somewhere to start. It may not have been exactly the same thing, but I've driven in a cart before. I know what the line should be. I know kind of where to brake. I know how to trail. I know how to do those things. And so then I could get comfortable very quickly. And then after a number of laps, then my body would just move automatically. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I know where I'm going.
Right.
Go down that way.
Nice. Now, are there a lot of indoor and outdoor tracks in Washington?
We were spoiled for choice up there, surprisingly, right? So there were a lot of outdoor tracks in Washington at the time. Yeah. So I was able to run the regional circuit for a number of years. I raced up there for about 10 years. And so I raced with a bunch of different teams and kind of moved around from place to place. It took me a while to find a team that I wanted to hang my hat on, because I always wanted to work with a group that would support me in trying to be successful and wouldn't just use me for resource. And so it took a little while to find the right team that was look, I want to win. I'm trying to win. Are you helping me win? Right.
And what's that's like? What is that like to have a team? I mean, I have an idea what it's like in motorcycle racing, and like I started doing some indoor racing, and so now it's like 4 to 5 riders, and that's a whole different dynamic and stuff like that.
Yeah, it depends on the team. It depends on the group. So,
like, is it like a mechanic, suspension guy? Is it just somebody to extra hand? What does that look like? Is it
yeah? So on the smaller teams, it's almost like a kind of like a small club, right? Everyone's just kind of all hands on deck, pitching in on their own stuff, and you kind of help each other as you need it. As you start to work your way up in budget and bigger teams, some teams have specialized people to help, right? So sometimes I had a mechanic, sometimes I had a spotter, right? Sometimes I had people working with me, right? And then if you go up into the national level, there are dedicated people who that's their job to work on the go-kart and you just drive, right? I enjoyed running kind of at the regional level where like I had a mechanic who was a friend of mine. You know, I would pay him because it made it worth his time, and then we would go get ice cream after, things like that. You know, my wife would be my pit boss, but I raced with one of the top cart distributors in the area. So like I had good chassis on hand. I had a tire changer ready. I had access to tires, like things like that. So it made it easy to get equipment so that when it was, you know, time to be ready for the heat races, my cart was well prepared. And then I could go compete, which is one of the reasons I got into karting for so long, is that like I could have competitive equipment with the same people who were leading and winning. And so it motivated me to want to drive more because I could actually win the race rather than always having used old crap.
Right. So, and let's talk about the competitive side, because autocross, you weren't looking to be competitive, but somewhere along the line, like that itch just kind of you want to see how you stack up against the other folks. And I mean, I'm very competitive. My daughter's very competitive, but my kids are very competitive.
So I like racing people because the winner is clear.
Right.
The first one across wins.
Yes.
The end. Right. We didn't have to have any time modifier. We weren't trying to make a bunch of assorted cars that didn't really go together work together. Right. There wasn't like okay, sure. There was a little bit of politics in karting of like what was the best engine to have for certain classes and stuff, but you could kind of figure your way through that. Right. At the end of the day, we were racing. And if I got to the end before everybody else, I was the winner. It's really straightforward. Right. And I enjoy wheel to wheel racing the most. So, you know, karting and also competitive sim racing really scratch those itches for me because I can battle other people. I enjoy competing against other people. Right. And so that's really where that motivation for me to compete really then kicked in.
Yeah, I mean, let's if you don't mind, and this is not scripted, folks, but let's give me a little intro to karting as far as teaching. Like, if I'm a newbie, like, what are things? How would you start? Teaching, and what would you say? I guess act like and teach me a couple of things.
No, 100%. So the first thing that's different about owning your own cart is that you have to know that you want to deal with all the bollock of go-karting. So traditionally what I would do is I would recommend that folks bought into like a popular class and typically like a low power class, like an LO206, where there's a lot of entrants, there's a lot of people. It's easy to sell the cart if you decide that you don't want to do it. So the pressure for your stuff is lower. You're not buying a specialized thing that if you then try to sell, it's difficult to sell to somebody else because you have like a really powerful but rare thing. Right. The second thing that I always end up doing is we start to talk about the fundamentals of like how a racetrack is shaped. Right. Because basically at the end of the day, we're just going through a range of degrees of curves. Right. At the end of the day. And so there's only so many degrees of turn. And we want to use as much width of the track as we can almost at all times. Okay. So regardless of the type of corner, whether it's decreasing or increasing, uphill, downhill, camber, posi camber, any of that, we're trying to use as much track as possible because vehicles like track. The more momentum I can carry, the more track width I can use, the faster I will go. So I need to get you used to looking as far ahead as possible and steering as little as possible and using as much track width as possible. So I would start with some cones in key places to get you used to where to look and where to put the go-kart. Right. And I'd stand at certain places or have some reference for you at certain places to be like, your car needs to be over here. If there's space between you and here, you're not in the right spot. I don't care how fast you're going. I need you to have a baseline reference of where to be first, and then where to look next. And now that you're comfortable with that, we can start applying speed in particular places so that you're comfortable with the car feels like going faster. Okay. Because when you're driving, you're basically just looking for a reference of, am I safe or not? And when you don't have that reference, you tense up and freak out. Right. And so then you slow down because you're scared. You don't know if it's going to hurt you or not. So you'll drive under the limit and you'll only drive and you'll never really go fast.
Right.
Because your brain is like, well, I've never gone over the limit before. I've never slid before. I've never, carried any speed in before. I don't know if that's a terminal thing. I could hurt myself. I don't want to hurt myself.
Right.
Right. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Right. So we're going to get you comfortable driving around at a low speed, knowing that you won't die and knowing where to go.
Okay.
That's cool. Right. Then we're going to start having you apply speed, let's say only on exits where all you're doing is accelerating in a straight line. Still not going to hurt yourself. Driving into the turn, can't hurt yourself, not going fast enough. And we're going to have you accelerate out going straight. So you know how fast the thing will go at full speed with the foot down. No, that speed won't kill you. Right. And then I'm going to have you braking into corners where you're just slowing down, coming to a slow speed. You came from warp 10 to a stop and didn't die. Isn't that great? Right. and then we start to apply kind of layers onto it so that your brain builds up the confidence that, oh, this isn't going to kill me.
Right.
Right. And then as you start getting more and more comfortable, I can start increasing the level of difficulty of the technique and explaining more and more to you. And you'll build up confidence over time.
Right. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, once you're at a certain level, you can start, like, let's say, following me around and have something to mimic, knowing that you won't die. I'm going to drive at the speed that you can handle, not the speed that I can handle.
Right.
So you can trust me that if you can still see me, you're okay. Right. And then you build up that confidence and they do laps. And as they do laps, they start to experiment. They get faster.
And then, to get a little technical, what does the intermediate trying to be advanced student gets to see? What are we looking at that level?
So when we start to get to intermediate to advanced, we start talking about like kart dynamics and how the kart's moving around. So karts don't have differentials. And so they have to, because there's a solid rear axle in the back, they have to jack the inside tire to make it turn. So you load up the outside tire, you lift the inside tire, and it pivots itself around the turn. Okay. And so, if we're only staying with intermediate, I'm getting them to focus on lifting that inside tire and feeling when to apply the power to lower that inside tire so that you get the most rotation and are able to leave quickly.
Got you.
A lot of folks, what they do is they get on the throttle too quickly. And so they start to go into the turn and they start to jack, and then they get excited and they get on the gas, and then they drop the axle, and then they understeer off the road.
Right. And what is the momentum to get the rear tire, or what is the movement to get the rear tire off the ground, or rear inside tire off the ground? So because karts don't have suspension, your body is the suspension member. So the way that you stay fixed in the go-kart and the way that you shift your body weight is what helps to unload parts of the kart to make it move around. It's like riding a big wheel.
Exactly. So it's almost like riding a motorcycle in a way. It's like getting comfortable with moving around, getting comfortable with moving the bike with your body. And what is the bike doing underneath you with your body is very similar in a go-kart.
Right.
So we get them comfortable with moving their body around and noticing the jacking effect as the car is being jacked and how it's helping the car turn. And then you teach them to apply throttle actually inappropriately first, so you can see how bad it is.
Right.
You put a mark on the track. You say, I want you to get to full throttle here, knowing that it'll feel terrible. And you'll be like, this is how bad it'll be if you do it here.
Right.
Now I want you to go into the same corner and don't get on the power till you're here. You see how much better that feels? And they're like, oh, because they have a reference, because they know how to experiment with one input at a time.
Okay.
And as you start to give them that pattern of what to notice,
then
they can go off on their own and start trying it on their own. Right.
Yeah.
But at the time, too many things are happening when you're driving that you don't really think about it because you can't see it. Right.
No. Right. And your brain is, if your brain is working, you're going slow.
Right. Your brain's working, you're going slow. Well, no, for sure. Right. But trying to figure out how to properly program the brain so that we can get it back to its automatic cycle is what's important. Right. Because I can program you with crappy inputs and then you're just automatically doing things badly.
Right.
Right. So yeah.
And so I a couple of years ago, I took I forget, I think it was California Superbike, one of those classes. I did a 2-day class, and one of the things they were talking about was your eyes, and they showed a MotoGP rider who doesn't blink, right? Because every time you shift your eye, your brain shuts off.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So in kart racing, are you just looking at your braking marker, your apex, and your exit?
Well, you're looking through turns because you're exactly right. So what happens basically, whenever you're adjusting your vision, your brain is recalculating. It's one of the reasons why, like, you don't look at every step when you're going down a flight of stairs. You just look at the bottom of the stairs.
Right.
Because your brain will go, okay, this is how far I am perspective-wise. I won't fall. Step. Where if you looked at every step of the way, for a microsecond, your brain would go, am I okay? Am I okay? Am I okay? And if you're in a moving vehicle, every one of those little blinks, the vehicle has moved.
Right.
And so you're always too late. Where if you're looking through the turn, all you have to do is get to this point. All I have to do is steer and get here. And once I'm at that point, I need to be looking somewhere else because I'm in the spot. I can't do anything being here.
Right.
And so teaching them that your hands follow your eyes and the vehicle follows your hands. So effectively, the vehicle follows your eyes.
Right.
It's really important. Right. In autocross, what we used to do is we used to take crepe paper and we used to tape it across the bottom of the windshield so that you couldn't look down.
Gotcha.
Because what would tend to happen is that people would look down because they were too afraid. Right. Yeah. So we blocked the bottom of the windshield so they couldn't even use it. Yeah. And it was like, it's remarkable how the brain will adapt when it can't use that information. And I would do the same thing with folks in go-karting. I would take the bottom of their helmet. I would take like folding paper and put it underneath the bottom of their visor, just underneath their eye line. Right. So they couldn't look down.
Yep.
Right.
In motorcycle racing, they tape over the speedometer because if you see how fast you're going.
Yep. Well, so I have a track day Civic and it's the same thing. So I actually have a big like carbon piece that I put over the speedometer so I can just see the tack.
Yeah.
Because I don't need to know that I'm doing 130 into this turn. Because my brain will think about that for long enough and be like, oh God, if I mess it up at 130, that'll really hurt.
Yeah.
Or if it's just like the top at fourth at 8,000, that's just the RPM needs to be. I'm just not dead. So great.
Yeah, no doubt. Wow. That's pretty cool. Your knowledge of racing. And so let's talk about sim. You know, this is something that I would like to get into. I mean, I think back in the day, I had Gran Turismo back in the day. So that's the closest thing I had. And now I have a PS5 with Gran Turismo that I've just been playing for the last few months. I'm still like getting my license and getting my brain acclimated to being in four wheels, even though it's a video game. It's still a different mindset than racing on the video game on motorcycles. I also race online with motorcycles and stuff like that as well. So how did you get into that? And was it something you decided to do to help you on the streets? So it's just, again, as you said, you have different phases, and this was maybe a new challenge for you.
Yeah. So it was kind of a happy accident. So what actually ended up happening is that one of my go-karting teammates was playing F1, I think it was F1 2017 in a league. Okay. Yeah. And he needed a teammate because he didn't have any friends. And so he asked me if I would race with him. I said, yeah, sure, why not? Like, just something to do for something to do, right? And so I started competing in these leagues and I would get my doors blown off. And I was mad about it because I would ask people like, well, how are you able to get the car to do X, Y, Z? And they wouldn't tell me. Right. They were just, you just need to know how to do it. And I hate that answer, right?
I kind of feel that. I don't ask people, but I kind of feel that way because I play Ride 5, one of the games they play in MotoGP. But it's like, there's, I'm still like 3 seconds behind, 2 seconds behind the fastest guys that I play with at times. And I was a lot slower. So I feel good about, getting quicker, but it's just kind of like, what are they doing to just get that extra thing? Because it's like, I feel like I'm doing everything right and they still just kind of stretching.
No, I get you. So I hated that answer. I really, really did. And so I started coaching in sim because I wanted to find the answer. So I would work with friends who were slower than me and I tried to get them up to my speed to figure out, I took what I learned in go-karting, I took what I learned in autocross and started to apply that in sim racing. And I was kind of started there. Yeah. Then COVID happened and everything shut down.
Yep.
And so we couldn't go racing for a while. And so another friend of mine had a sim league that he had on a set of Corso Competizione, ACC. Mm-hmm. Again, same deal. He invited me to come race with him. And when I got there, they had a rookie league that was basically just like the Wild West. So they had a bunch of new people like yourself that would show up, but there was no one there to really take care of them. So the races were just crash fests and people would get frustrated and they would leave.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, man, you have this great opportunity to keep this league going by teaching these rookies how to race properly.
Yeah.
Why don't you let me do it? Because I know how to do it. Let me do it. I'll stay out of the other leagues over here, the other classes you have. You guys can drive however you want to. And I'll help these rookies figure out like what the racing line is and how to drive and how to do the whatever. So that way, at least when they make it up to your classes, they're more aware of what to expect and they'll drive better over there and it won't be so terrible and they won't leave.
Right. Yeah, I some of those things like and I'll use Ride. I know I'm saying Ride and PS and in Gran Turismo. I know they're not Sims. Don't beat me up about out there.
Hey man, I said.
But I noticed a difference when I race with people online that I know race,
Yeah.
it's so much different.
Yeah.
It's so much different than I think people who are just learning or haven't raced a physical motorcycle in my case. But you know, because we leave room, we see people, we give them room. You know, we know not to knock somebody off the track.
Yeah. Well, it's the etiquette. So what I found is like especially when I started coaching more regularly, is most people don't understand the etiquette because they're not able to put themselves in the shoes of the other driver. Right? They're always selfishly putting themselves in their own shoes, like from their own point of view. So if we're two cars and we're racing and I'm coming up on you, the novice will think, well, he should see me. He should care about me and what I'm doing. This guy does not care about you at all. All he cares about is driving his car as well as he can and making the next upcoming turn. So you have to put yourself in a place where he can see you so that he can negotiate around you, because he wants to make it to the end of the race too. Like, no one enters a race going, I hope I crash and die. Exactly. Right? Yeah. So they need to be able to see you and then be able to navigate around you. And that sort of whole like etiquette and also like mindset around the perspective of the other racers, you're never taught. Right? This is not a common conversation piece that happens regularly amongst, you know, people in leagues or online, or, you know, most people who post about racing online, they mostly post about like lap times that they're trying to flex, hardware they're trying to review, or a game they're trying to review. But very few people are talking about the racing, right? You might get people who talk about the driving. This is understeer, this is oversteer, here's the line. But eventually everyone can drive. Right. I'm talking about racing. How do you compete with other people and negotiate with other people to get to the finish line quicker than them? Right? That's a totally different thing. And so a lot of leagues they weren't equipped to have those conversations. Everybody would just drive in like selfish jerks and kill each other because nobody really knew what to expect, like how to accommodate around the other cars, how to make it so that we could all get to the end, like da-da-da-da-da. Right.
And you know, for me, a good example of negotiating, right, is like, you know, if you know, when I've gone to being in Jamaica and seeing people drive, and you'll see videos online saying, you know, they drive crazy in Jamaica, but it's like music because everybody is negotiating, and exactly. And we all expect it. You know, I drove in Rome when I went to Italy, and around everywhere, and it's the same thing. It's just like everybody's on it, but everybody's seeing everybody, and it's we're all in time. We're all in time.
Look, I tell people all the time that racing is just car-to-car communication, right? I'm communicating with you with the positioning of my car, where I put my car, when I put my car somewhere, where I turn, when I turn. Right. And so based on how you position yourself around me also tells me a lot about yourself, right? If you're a respectful person, you'll pull up next to me and be like, hey, man, I'm next to you. We can make it through together. And I'm not going to try to run you off the road or squeeze you off the road because I don't want to die too. Where if you're selfish, you'll try to surprise me. Where like I'm already turning and I can't change the direction of my car and you're just like, surprise! Well, I can't avoid it now, even if I knew you were coming. Right. So we die, right?
You either got to take the tighter line and eat whatever you get, which is what you're supposed to do. Right. if you mess up, right?
Yeah. Well, and then also too, it's also about like that communication of how do you communicate to the guy behind that you can't go here. Right. So one of the things that especially when I start to get to students that are trying to get more competitive, is how to be selfish correctly. Right. Because again, I do need to protect my space on the racetrack, but I don't need to be driving people off the road. Right. So I need to keep position my car.
Can't be a bully.
Right. I can't be a bully. Right. But I can be firm, but just not be a bully. Right. So if we're both going down into a turn, I can position my car to say, hey, man, you can't go here. I can't weave to block you out. Right. So I have to be smart enough on when I tell you that it's happening, that you have enough time to see it happening, but not so much that you can come up with a strategy to counter. Right. And we just don't have these conversations regularly amongst racing enthusiasts in general like this. Right.
No, I agree.
Yeah. You get a lot of rhetoric. You just got to send it. You just got to lick the stand. You just got to like, that doesn't explain the why for anything. Right. And so I'm over here pulling my hair out because I get so many people who come to me that are like, well, you got to go for the gap. You got to throw it in. You got to do this. And I'm like, you don't even know what that means.
They heard Aaron Senna say.
Yeah, they heard Senna say it, and they heard Jardy say it on YouTube once, and that they just parroted it back to me. You know, like I was explaining to somebody about smooth is fast, and what does smooth is fast mean? Right. And I was like, do you know what smooth is fast means? And they're like, well, you know, be smooth with your inputs. I'm like, but how? How are you smooth with your inputs? All right. And they were like, well, you know, you got to slow down to make the turn. I'm like, are we trying to go slow? Is the purpose to try to go slow? The purpose isn't trying to go slow. I'm trying to get you on the limit of the tire. How do I? I got to go in fast to be on the limit of the tire. So that's not it, right? And like the end of the answer is really it's accurate weight transfer at a high speed on the limit of the tire. But the amount of words that it'll take to effectively explain it is longer than most people's attention spans.
Right.
Right.
Sure.
And so that's where a lot of my like TikToks and things came from, were tips and tricks that were less than 2 minutes.
Right. See, I'd have just been like, it's feeling, man. It's just feeling.
Yeah, that would make me mad. I would just be like, no, it's not that. It's just not that. That guy just can't explain it, but it's not that. Like there are engineers whose job it is to make this thing do the thing.
Racing's like dancing, man. You just feel the music.
But you're right. Like you're right. And so like there's a happy medium, honestly, between the rhetoric and the science that I try to breach, right? Because when we're talking like this, I want you to think about it. But when you're racing, I don't want you to think.
Right.
I need it to be automatic. I need it to be flowing. So I tell a lot of people that practice is the time for overthinking. Practice is the time to try new things and ask what's happening and experiment and mess it up and whatever. The race is the time to execute on the things we already know.
Yep.
So just do what you know how to do. Do the best you can with what you know how to do. Whatever you screw up, write it down in the notebook and we'll deal with it in the next practice.
Yeah.
But don't fix it in the race because
can't practice in a race.
Can't practice in the race. The race is race time. Right. Yeah. And so, as you start to kind of get that flow of finding how to get them to think about it the right way, you end up with more intelligent drivers. And that's all I've really ever wanted. Right. It's just more people I can race with that knew how it's supposed to work so they don't just kill me when I just want to race.
It's a beautiful thing when everybody knows what they're doing and what's going on. You see some amazing racing.
Like, so fun.
So
like I would rather finish 7th in a great race than win a race where everyone else died.
Yeah.
Like I like battles. I come for good battles. So I want a good race with people. And like, I want to be able to race with people who also understand how to respectfully do it too. So they're not just trying to kill me.
Right.
Because that's stressful. That's not fun.
No, that's pretty impressive. So let's talk about like what a sim league is like and how do you define a sim system? What is it? Is it just the steering wheel and pedals? Is it the whole, suspension, for lack of a better word, or actuators?
Yep. Well, the nice thing about sim racing is a little bit of it's down to your budget of choose your own adventure, right? So like when my first sim was a PlayStation 2 with a Logitech G29 mounted to a desk on a monitor.
Okay.
Right. So it wasn't that sophisticated.
I got a steering wheel and my PS. I got a sim.
I got a sim. So you're good. Right. And then as you get more into the hobby and you know that you want to do it, you'll want to refine the equipment. Right. Because you want to get more fidelity. You want to get more detail. You want to get load cell pedals. So it's easier to do certain things. Right. But you upgrade as you go rather than spending like $60,000 all in and then realize you didn't need half of it.
I was going to say, when do we knock down the wall?
Right. Exactly. Right. So like some of the clients that I work with for Apex Advisory, they started from that side, right? Where they're great sim constructors who I believe overbuilt sims where they give them way too much more than they'd ever need. 25 Newton meter direct drive wheels, of motion actuators, triples, like they have money, so they have the budget to do it. So why not? Right. But it's not required.
Yeah. Let me ask this. Is it, I was talking about feeling and you can feel it like dancing and stuff like that. And we got sims moving so people can actually feel the car, right? In theory, versus just kind of knowing what to do and stuff like that. Does it help that the car is moving, that the sim is moving, or is it just a little more like jumping on a roller coaster?
It depends on who you talk to. So So Max Verstappen, I don't know if you've heard of him. I really believe in motion sims.
A little bit.
And he's done a little bit of it, right? Because a lot of the noise you get from motion sim is just more novelty to make you feel like you're moving around, but it's not really helping performance, right? And I'm like, because the really sophisticated motion actuators like Formula One simulators have, like the air grade level.
I was going to say,
right? That stuff needs to move, right? But it's also got multiple processors doing things, right? Your computer isn't as sophisticated as a Formula One sim. So does it enhance the experience? Yeah, it totally does. Is it required to go fast? Absolutely not. Right. So choose your adventure. Like, some of my friends have haptic back pads where it vibrates a little bit as the car is moving around. So it gives them a little bit of motion feel because there's just vibration and like under their butt and under their back. And if that's the trigger that you need to help you, then great.
Right.
But I've never been in a race with somebody that's like, I won because of my haptics.
Right. And I'll say, I do like I'm using a controller, but I do like the vibration because, in the ride game, it's like it's nice to know in the front I'm gonna lose the front, right?
Yep.
So I get vibration. I'm like, all right, it's like so. I mean, I guess over time you would just also just feel it, as like, well, yeah.
I mean, I started on Gran Turismo 4 and a PlayStation controller. I'm totally with you, dude. I used the analog sticks for gas and brake and to steer because it was easier than pushing buttons. Like, I totally feel you there. I liked having the force feedback as the tire was sliding around. Like, I didn't know as much as I knew now about why it was doing it, but I would be like, well, when it would vibrate this much, this was bad, and when it vibrated that much, this was good. So I'm just going to let it vibrate a little bit instead of a lot bit.
Right.
Right.
So it sounds like you've been in the racing scene for well over 10 years, safe to say,
20,
maybe 15, 20.
20. Yeah, I just turned 39 just last week. So.
Oh, okay, right, nice. Well, not nice to getting old because no one likes to get old, but you know what it is.
Old is still good. So.
Yeah, there you go. That's all that matters. So how has I know there's autocross, there's indoor kart, outdoor kart, sim. Like, do you ever sit back? I'm pretty sure you do because it sounds like you think a lot. When you look back the past 20 years, like, what do you think about make the changes or, how far the sport has progressed? Do you feel it's progressed in the right direction? Like,
sure. Yeah. Well, I'll say that as far as accessibility to get people into racing, especially with sim racing now, it's more accessible than it's ever been, which I think is great. Right. I was always frustrated because I've never come from a large amount of money. And it was always a little frustrating when I would go to the track and I couldn't compete because I just didn't have any of it. Right. And that was very frustrating. And even when I got into go-karting, it wasn't cheap. And so trying to get some of my friends to even want to come racing with me was hard because it's like, oh, well, you're going to need to spend $5,000 to $10,000 to even really be interested. And like, that's not really a fair barrier for them to want to jump over just to hang out with me, And so with a sim, it was like, well, you got a desk, you got a screen, you got a PC. I mean, like, I've got an ultra wide sitting here behind me with 2 monitors and, direct drive and all this other stuff. You don't need all that stuff. Do you want to come hang out with me?
Right.
Great. And if they find that they're really invested in wanting to be a better driver, they're going to upgrade their hardware on their own. I don't have to tell them how to do it. They're going to do it on their own. And if they're really motivated to drive and to be a good driver like I am, they're going to buy the track day card. They're going to get the stuff, right? Their motivation will keep them going.
Right.
But at least it's a lot more accessible than it was, let's say 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'll for sure. I mean, like I said, autocross young, it got away from it. I thought I'd just go off and get rich and build my own race team.
Right. Yeah. Me too. I'm still working on that, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, life happened and so forth. And, I always wanted to ride, but just didn't get into it. So I didn't get into motorcycle riding until my 40s. And my first bike I did over 11,000 miles because I wanted to get good at it. And I was fortunate from the car days because the guy I knew, Jesse, I knew him from cars, from making Volkswagens go faster. You know what I mean? But he also rode. I didn't know that. I just knew he had fast Volkswagens and could build them. And I saw him one day. He's just like, "Come to the racetrack." I was like, "Oh, you can do that?" So
yeah, that's exactly what it was for me. Like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so like the stability part of it, and you're fortunate in Washington to have a lot of tracks, and in New England or in Massachusetts, they had a lot of tracks. Don't get me wrong, they had a lot of but somewhere along the line, I think in the 80s, fast things were dangerous.
Yeah, for sure.
People stopped going to tracks, and we're seeing that in the racing community now in the U.S. Trying to build it back up because. It used to be such a huge level back in the day, and now a lot of folks have through I think lack of education, think it's too dangerous.
Right. Well, and that's really what it is. Through a lack of education, they think it's too dangerous because they don't know what they're looking for or how to do it. Right. And I've always found a personal motivation to try to educate as many people as I can about how it works to just increase the level of conversation amongst drivers. That's all I've really ever wanted to do. Yeah. Right. Is that, I wanted to go to the track and be able to talk to my friends about how their car was working and how they were doing and how they were driving. And like, none of my friends could talk to me about it. And that sucked. Right. And my friends wanted to be better drivers. And the only thing I could be told was you either had to have it or you didn't. And that sucked. Or you had to spend $5,000 to go to Skip Barber 2-day school, which made no sense to me that you were going to master everything that you need to know in 2 days, which made no sense to me.
And you
right?
can't race your daily driver.
Right, exactly. And so I was like, well, I mean, if we had a more refined curriculum around like driving and racing and had a better dialogue amongst us or amongst our peers, we would all be better drivers because everyone is smarter.
Yeah.
And if everyone's more informed, then the driving and racing is better and it's easier to introduce new people and yada, yada, right? So it's a win. But that lack of education is what's hurting people. I mean, you would be surprised in the leagues that I run, how few people even know the types of cars they're even racing on a regular basis.
Wow.
They will ask me all the time, oh, I don't know. What's the difference between a GT2 or a GT3 or a GT4? What engine's in this? Is it front engine? Is it mid engine? And I mean, like, I came from the forum and magazine. Just pick up a magazine and start reading. What is wrong with you? Look it up, right? But
European Car Magazine for me, man.
Right, but people don't do that anymore. And so, trying to motivate them to educate themselves so that they become better drivers is a big challenge, right? But it's something that is important to me because I don't think the sport can survive if you don't have intelligent racers. If everyone's stupid, right? We're all going to suffer. So.
No, I definitely realized that a few years back, and it's a lot of energy for what you're doing to put a curriculum together, to go out there and talk to people and stuff like that. And, these club races, I talk about on motorcycle side to put on track days or people who decide to put on a racing club to go racing and stuff like that. They don't have to do these things.
No, we don't have to.
But they love the sport so much. The corner marshals, the flag people that show up because they're not getting paid for any of that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
People love the sport and they want to contribute. And without people like that, the sport would already been, as far as the motorcycle racing in the US, would have been dead.
Or it would just be a handful of wealthy people who are just having fun doing it, and the rest of us wouldn't be able to do it.
So it's important for what you're doing, and it's kind of why I didn't get into the motorcycle podcast to be doing what I'm doing like this, but it's to contribute. I love racing cars or motorcycle, and it's to contribute to kind of just grow the sport because
exactly.
It's a beautiful sport. The racing community is beautiful. I can only really speak about on the motorcycle side, but I'm sure it's the same way on the car side. Like people will race against you and be your friend the next after racing, or give you parts to go race against them and stuff like that. And the community is a really beautiful community and something I want to save. So, or try to help, grow it and build out. So, what you're doing is special and incredible.
Well, look, man, I've always been of the mindset that mental performance was always free. So if I understood how to make things work, I didn't have to pay as much because I could make the most of what I had.
Yep.
Right. And so I started reading and writing and coaching and other things because it was just developing the understanding in my brain. And then when I did get an opportunity to get better tires or I got a faster car or whatever, I knew where to start because I'd been studying the craft from the beginning.
Right.
And a lot of people don't do that. They just want to buy a 500 horsepower car or a 1,000 horsepower car nowadays and show up at the track and be a Formula D star. And I'm like, the steps to get from here to here is this big, and you haven't done any of them.
Right.
Like what? Right. And I have nothing against professional organizations. I support all these professional organizations like the Bondurants, Skip Barbers, and all the other things. I think they're great. I highly recommend people go to them. But there's a lot of free material that you could educate yourself before even going there that would make your experience that much better if you read a book. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, damn it. Right.
Even an audiobook.
Yeah. Even an audiobook, man. Like, I've written articles for a bunch of publications. I have a big library in my house that is all about racing cars. Like I share videos all the time of, just free stuff for people of go read this, go read that, go read this. Like you have to want to do it though.
Right.
Right. And I tell people all the time, like, if you want to be a better driver, it's because you want to. I can't make you do it. All the work I do is to make me a better driver. I can't help you. You have to want to do it.
Right.
And so I can give you access to resources.
Yeah. And it's interesting because a lot of folks cannot connect that dot, those dots, right? It's just kind of like, whatever car you're in now is 4,000, 5,000 pounds vehicle going 80 miles an hour. It doesn't look good on the other side if you don't know what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. And between you and me, I think we get aspirational occupation and enthusiast learning confused.
Okay.
So a lot of people come to me all the time and they're like, well, Davin, you're not going to be a professional racing driver. Like, why do you need to learn all this stuff? I'm like, first of all, rude. But second of all, like, I just want to learn how this works. There's no harm in getting better at something as a hobby that I want to learn the most I can as an amateur. I mean, if we're going to be really blunt about it, the only difference between the pro and me is that pro is bringing money.
Yes.
And I'm not bringing money. We don't get paid in racing. And what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Those people brought enough money that they get the word pro attached to their name. Nothing wrong with that. But that doesn't mean that I can't educate myself in the interim.
I do say there's a little something wrong with that, but
well, I mean, okay, no, look, there's a lot wrong with it. There's a lot wrong with it, yes. But there's another soapbox completely over here where I will talk about the expensive things that I will rant for hours about. But this discussion today, you know, like I'm not over here being like, you're rich, it's not fair.
Right,
I mean, it's not fair, but it's not fair, right? I can still educate myself about driving, right? Maybe I just want to drive my Miata, the best Miata driver I can be.
Right.
I want to be the best Honda Civic driver I can.
Yeah, motorcycle racing and car racing, like I can't just buy my way onto the NBA court or football field or anything. But if you have enough money, you can end up in MotoGP. You can end up in Formula One.
Be in Formula One.
Race.
Exactly. Right. And you know, look, there's a bigger micro conversation about where the money comes from and how we afford to do it. But the other thing is, like, do we need to all be racing Formula One? I don't think so. I've had some really great battles and not that. So. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know this exists. That's great. But I don't need to go be the one to go do that. I could do a bunch of other stuff too. And so, you know, trying to educate people, even just different forms of racing that are available and accessible to you. Right. Like, and then who knows what opportunities get brought up from that? Like, we don't know. Life is weird that way. Yeah. Right. And
for sure.
Yeah, so that's what I always tell people. So.
Yeah, and you brought a good point about everyone don't need to be in Formula One, because in on the motorcycle side, you know, people want 1000s and big bikes. Yeah, and I have a couple of KTMs, and I started out. I guess my biggest race bike was a 600, and I went down to a 42 horsepower bike so I can learn fundamentals. I can master my body position. Yeah, and you're not telling me I'm not having fun on that bike when I'm out there.
Right? No, for sure, man, for sure. Look, I used to say the same thing about go-karting. So I always race tag because I'm the sort of person that picks one class that I really want and I drive it a lot because I want to specialize. I know that about myself. So I find what makes me happy. I drive it into the ground. Right. But a lot of folks would go in and buy like a shifter cart. First thing, ICC, first thing, 42 horsepower, 50 horsepower, way faster than anything they've ever driven. They do not have the skills to keep up with this machine. Right. Okay. And it's scaring the crap out of them all the time. Right. And they go out once, scare themselves, never drive it again. Right. Because they're intimidated. Right. They're not only intimidated because they're scared of the machine, but they're intimidated because they're not good.
Yeah, and explain that a little bit more about the more powerful cars on a karting track, right? Because you know, I over the past weekend I was doing an enduro race, and we were talking about mini bikes on karting tracks, and like a 250 on a karting track is like 1,000.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I guess the way that I would put this to make it easy for you is take whatever horsepower you get from a go-kart and add a 0, and it's the car equivalent. Okay. So like a 9 horsepower go-kart is like a 90 horsepower car. Okay. A 30 horsepower go-kart is like a 300 horsepower car. Wow. Right. So now a 45 horsepower go-kart is like a 450 horsepower car. Right. On a small track. Right. On a small track. So if you showed up on your first day and said, I want to race, and the first thing I put you in is a 450 horsepower car, whose fault is that? Yeah, you're not lifted, or you're not going racing again. Exactly. Or you're just really, really slow, right? Because I mean, I had that. Like I would race 4 strokes, and no joke, I was faster than the shifter guys who were really scared and really slow. And I was hustling the crap out of my go-kart. Like around the corner, I just go around them, and they would kill me on a straightaway, and then get to the turn and be so scared they'd stop way early. Yep. And I'm just like, like especially in the rain, just right?
I like racing in the rain.
And having fun, right? So it was one of those things that you built up a bit of experience. Right. My first tag race, I just got thrown on the deep end in because I had been racing 4 strokes for like 6 years. And then
what's tag when you say tag race?
It's a 2-stroke class that is electrically start powered. So tag actually stands for touch and go. Okay. So some go-karts have external starters. Yep. Where you put the motor in the side and you start them. Yep. Other of them have a button that you just push the button and it starts. Nice. I'm lazy. I want to push a button. Yep. Yeah, it was just great. You turn it on, and you start, and you go. It is great.
Everything's to worry about, man.
Right? And there were most tags are typically 2 strokes, and most tags are typically 28 to 30 horsepower. So in car terms, 280 to 300 horsepower, right? Go ahead.
What do you prefer, 4-stroke or 2-stroke?
Oh, two-stroke every day, all the way. Right. They rev really high. They sound great. They make a lot of power. They are fun. So what I found is I like to drive carts that need me, right? Versus things that are so slow they don't need me.
Right.
You know, I enjoyed racing World Formula. I enjoyed racing 4-strokes. Like, I had a great time. It's not okay, but they were kind of boring. You know, like I never wanted to just do a lap on my own. I just, if there were people to race, I'd race them. And if there's no one there, I'd go home. Right. Where when I was in my tag, anytime I could be on the track, I was on the track.
Okay.
Right. So I was like, well, let's go. I want to drive it now.
I'll say for me, it's hard going to a racetrack just to watch.
Oh, I hate it. It is literally my least favorite thing. It is bar none my least favorite activity. Like for a couple of reasons. One, because I have this background of grassroots knowledge where I know a lot. And so it's very frustrating when you're just watching because you want to do it. Because you can do what they can do and you're not doing it. So I hate it. Right. But also I like doing it so much that like at least give me something to do. And at least give me like, let me spot for someone, coach for someone, do something. But just having me sit there, I watch a lot of racing, my dude. I don't need to watch more. Like, So yeah, I always have a hard time. There's something I'd rather go watch something new and novel. Right. If I'm just going to do nothing, like, actually, when I first got married, I took my wife to the IndyCar races just for fun. It was in Portland. Yeah. We went. She'd never been to a professional motor race. So we went to one. And she had fun. But the one thing she said when she came back was she's like, I have more fun watching you race than watching other people race.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, I married the right person, but I
for sure.
Right,
for sure,
right. And so I felt the same way.
And she's closer to the action. You're in the action, not even closer. You're in the action.
Well, and also we felt like our successes were something we'd done together. So my wife never really likes to drive, but she likes to win. She's very competitive, and so she's a great pit boss. She would make sure I had water. She'd make sure I had fresh tires. She'd go through the checklist for me to make sure the car was safe. So we were kind of working together. And when I was driving, she'd be going through the pits, just paying attention to what other people are doing and like giving me information. This guy, his head's all messed up. He's just not really in it today. This guy, they're fighting in the pits. They're arguing over there a lot. So I'm sure if you're aggressive with him on the racetrack, he'll fold over, right? Things like that. You pass that guy and he's mad about it. Keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. Oh, okay. Good to know. And so I would take all that data and it would help me on the racetrack because I'd be like, oh, there's that guy that hates it when I pass him. I'm going to chase him for a while because he hates it when I'm behind him. So I'm going to sit here. Good. Right. It's good. So it was fun. We could do it together. It was something we could do together. So my wife was one of those people that she said that I could only keep first places after a while.
Okay.
So that was always the big motivator is, I would come home with seconds and thirds and she's like, I don't want to fill my garage full of crap. So you're only allowed to keep first place trophies or championships. And I was like, okay. So the running joke was I had to win because I wanted to take this one home. Right. And so now, like my trophy cabinet over here has only like a fraction of the trophies I've won. Because
right. Nice. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So now you're down in Texas now and you're racing down in Texas. I'm
largely doing Sims coaching down here. For a little while, I took a break from on-track running because we need to afford to get a house.
Yep.
So, I need to save to get a house. So we got a house. I've got a Civic that I've been working on as a track day car on and off. My eventual goal is to get back to the real racetrack too and start doing that work again. But that didn't mean that I could stop racing. So I started my own league at first, and then I started a coaching service called Apex Advisory, and I started coaching people in sim because, back to our earlier point, it's a very broad and accessible environment in the sim racing community. A bunch of people all over the place that all have computers, that all get on these services that don't know what they're doing.
Right.
And, I tried to create a service that you can have free information from me that shows up when I feel like talking about it. Right. You can have self-help information that you can buy for a nominal amount if you want and teach yourself. Or you can work with me one-on-one and I can coach you directly. Right. And you kind of pay at the level that you are willing to consume.
Okay.
But, I'm a big proponent of like, you spend money on stupid stuff all the time. Coffee, random things. Like, it's great. Like, I'm not shaming anything, but like, most of my courses are like $5.
Right.
A cup of coffee is $5. Would you rather spend $5 on something that permanently improves your driving ability or something that's temporary?
Right. Exactly. No, that's a good price for sure.
I'll let you make that choice. I'm not forcing you. No one's making you do this.
Right.
But I want it to be accessible. I want it to be approachable. Right. And, I don't want to price people out to be like, oh, you want to be good at playing this game, you have to pay $100 an hour.
Right. I mean, as we were talking about the larger schools, I mean, it is a huge amount of money to have a 2-day course at a lot of places.
Yeah.
Between hotel, airfare, rent a car, insurance.
Yeah.
You know, if and that's when you're not even bringing your bike.
Right. Exactly.
You know, so as far as when it comes to two wheels, so it's like I said earlier, 15 minutes ago or less. No, it's cool what you're doing, and putting your time out there and giving people something that's reachable, rather than, you know, saying, you know, man. I mean, I was like racing, you know, since 2013, and I took the class in 2022. So like always looking at that price, I'm like, I mean, that's a whole season of racing right there. If I do 2 classes, right, that kind of thing. So, you know, to have stuff online and be able to learn online, like, you know, I have been able to, or, you know, buy programs that are like, you know, $50 and you have access to this wealth of information. And, you know, it has been helpful, and it helped my riding and helped me get to a point to where it's like, okay, now let me go to one of these schools and see, because I'm not a novice. I know what's going on. I know to fix a couple of things, and you know, and you know,
you're going to pass it, right? And you can just kind of be quiet and go through the activities and get the thing.
You know, I learned that, you know, I was scared of the apex because I was just always like, you know, a foot away. It's like, what are you scared of?
What are you scared of?
Lean your body over the apex, you know.
No, for sure. 100%. So an old buddy of mine used to race bikes, and I would sometimes go to the track to just watch him because I like learning cross-disciplinary things. And that was one of the things he told me. He's like, you know, getting used to the lean and actually using the sidewall of the tire for grip was a challenge for him at first. He was like, what do you mean I got to lean over to use more of the tire?
Right.
And I was like, that's why I don't ride motorcycles. But good to know.
Yeah.
Right? So.
And the same thing. I'm still working on the edge of the tire, and and I'm planning to do more. Not doing more because I haven't done any, but do mini GP on bikes. To get comfortable on the edge of the tire. Before jumping on something that have a lot more power.
Look, man, the journey's never over when you're working on skills development, right? You think Lewis Hamilton's not working on his driving when he's driving? You think Verstappen's not working on his driving when he's driving? They're all working on their driving when they're driving. It's just that they've been doing it for 25 years, and they do it at such a high level that most of us can't even understand. So we see an F1 car driving around, and they just think it's like all perfect all the time, and it's not.
No.
We just don't know what we're looking at. It's fine, but like, just be fair about it.
Exactly. No, it's, you know, as to talk about accessibility of the sport, it's, you know, and Lewis Hamilton is a great story because his family sacrificed a lot. And this sport, I hit that formula to get there. I can only imagine, and you know, it's a sacrifice that happened for him, and to be able to get there. But the kid was, you know, he had a remote RC cart in his hand, probably like at 3-4 years old. So you know, and that's all helping.
Right.
Know?
But what I tell people all the time is like, you know, there's a whole bunch of racing between RC and Formula One that you could do.
Right.
Exactly. That I don't want to discourage you, that you're not a multimillionaire, that you can't drive an F1 car. Look, here's a Miata. Enjoy yourself. You know, even Miatas can be expensive now, surprisingly. But still, like, here's a sim. Like, you know, it says something, I think, about the sport of sim racing now, that people are using sim racing as driver development channels to get people into real cars. Right. You see a lot of programs all over the place now that are sprouting up.
Yeah, you mentioned Verstappen, and he has one, right? And he's he's on, you know, camera promoting the sim world and stuff like that. So it's you know, we've seen, the hurt of the guy, the kid there that, you know, got the seat from the Gran Turismo game. Yeah. And I forget his name now, but you know, he's still racing.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
And just having that knowledge, right? Because, you know, again, like I mean, I was, you know, I'm probably 10 years older than you, give or take. So, you know, I was playing the Ataris in the 80s and stuff like that. And to kind of see where the gaming world is today, it's like you would never fathom, like, oh, I can play this game and one day actually end up in a car.
Yeah.
But
I'll leave you with this, though. So there's a lot of other disciplines where simulators are more readily accepted, right? Commercial air travel.
Yeah.
Submarines. Astronauts, construction.
Yeah.
You know, it's just more widely accepted that people use simulators to train themselves on the discipline. With car racing, because you and I can buy a car, we invalidate it.
Right.
Because that's just how the human condition works.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
it clearly can't be that important. So then your sim is stupid now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's still a tool that can be used. Like, and it doesn't line up 1-to-1 because nothing replaces practical experience.
Right.
You know, like when people come to me all the time, well, it's not a replacement for real seat time. Of course not, dummy. That's not what it's for. Right. It's an augment for seat time. It's to get you out of those crappy bad habits of like driving on a cold tire like an idiot, or not knowing where the line is, or not knowing how to stop. Right. That we can put you in a real car and you skip all those steps real fast because you've already gotten through it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, listen, if you take a cooking class and if you memorize the recipes ahead of time, cooking is a lot easier.
Way easier. Way easier, man. Right. And that's what I tell a lot of folks is like, look, we don't have to live in this binary world of like, just because you have a sim doesn't mean you can't do the other things. And the real, like, if we're being real about it, if you want to be the best driver you can be, you want to be doing all of it.
Right.
You want to be in a sim, you want to be in a go-kart, you want to be in a Miata, you want to be in a sports car, you want to be in a Formula car, you want to be in a, you know, you want to be driving as much, you want to be doing rally, you want to be on snow, you want to be on ice, you want to be, you know, you want to do as many things as you can to get as much muscle memory as you can in your body so that nothing phases you. Now, is that physically possible for a lot of folks? No. So you know what? Get yourself a sim to start, right?
Yep. No, I completely agree, man. I definitely agree. Well, I think we're a little bit over time. You know, I tell folks how they can find you and your program. I mean, because I can keep talking cars.
No, dude, I will talk to the yeah, exactly. So it's easy to find me. Apex of Davin is all my handles. So you'll find me on TikTok, on Threads, and a few other folks. My blog is apex-advisory.org. So you'll get my coaching services on there, and I also have a blog with a bunch of articles on there. And yeah, those are the two places you can find me. If you type in Davin Sturtevant, you'll find me pretty easily. I'm the only Davin that talks about racing. So
yeah, for sure. I will say one thing: exercising. How much does that play into? I mean, not the sim, obviously.
No, even the sim. No, it's even in the sim, man. There's a lot of cardiovascular activity that you're doing while you're in the sim. You know, a lot of feet loading, a lot of arm loading for 2 or 3 hours at a time. Sometimes if you're doing races back to back, or even the enduro races where you're spending a lot of time in the car, right? That physicality is really important. And it helps. Just what it does is it in the sim, at the very minimum, it reduces the amount of bandwidth that your body needs to do things. Right. So, you know, if I'm racing you and you're in shape and I'm not in shape, it's not the fact that you'll drive better than me, but you'll drive better than me for a little longer. You'll make smarter decisions for a little longer. You'll start messing up a lot later. Right. And so still, I go for walks. I go to the gym. You know, I do my things. I need to do more of it. Right. And when I was go-karting, it was huge because it was such a, you know, the kart is such a physical thing. Right. That I could beat out a lot of people just on physicality. I didn't even need to drive that hard. I just needed to drive until they got winded. Right. So you do 80% of what you could do until they kind of got tired. They back off a little bit and you pick up and leave. I didn't even need to be the fastest guy. I just needed to be not out of breath.
That's it. It's you know, work smarter, right? Nice, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate what you're doing for the racing community on Four Wheels. It's nice to see what you're doing out there, and I appreciate it. And I'm pretty sure we'll be talking more, and hopefully, you know, we'll spend another hour and 18 minutes, give or take, talking cars, man. Because we haven't even dived into like suspension stuff or nothing, you know, all the other fun stuff. This is
anytime you want to, man. I appreciate you inviting me. If you got a slot you need to fill, just hit me up.
All right, no doubt. I appreciate it, man. Davin from Apex Advisor. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Peace.